What is the king of all monster lifts, the squat or the deadlift? Welcome to the gym equivalent of Godzilla vs. King Kong. Reality is, both these movements sit atop the workout food chain as moves that challenge multiple large lower body muscle groups and let us move major weight. For most lifters, either the deadlift or the squat is going to wind up being your strongest lift period. And that means these are critical lifts for packing on muscle and strength. But which one of them is really the king? Depending on your goals and body type, you may eventually find yourself favoring one lift over the other. Let's dive in deeper to understand how both lifts will fit into your routine and when you will want to make one of these lifts more dominant in your training. First, let's take a minute to understand the similarities and differences between these lifts. And the biggest similarity is that both of these lifts are going to make you crazy strong. Whether you're squatting or deadlifting, as long as you're pushing yourself, you're activating nearly every single muscle group in your body, and you're getting to challenge many of those muscles with a ton of load. Both lifts also axially load your spine, which can help develop and maintain bone density, although there is a downside. These moves will really fatigue your entire nervous system. Where these two exercises differ is in the prime movers, the muscles that really drive each rep. For the sake of this discussion, we'll focus on the classic barbell versions of each move, the conventional deadlift, and the barbell squat, although much of this breakdown applies to other versions of each exercise too. During the classic barbell deadlift, your glutes and hamstrings are the prime movers, driving you into hip extension at the top of each rep. In addition to that, your largest back muscles, your lats, your rhomboids, and your traps play a key role helping you lift the weight, and your forearms see plenty of work because they have to actively grip the bar. Your lower back extensors also play a key role in the deadlift, actively shortening as you stand with the weight. The entire motion is driven by your hips though, which is why the deadlift is known as a hip-dominant movement. The back squat is known as a knee-dominant movement, although depending on your body type, it may still require you to hinge at the hips. As you lift the weight upwards on each rep, you'll heavily recruit your quads, hip adductors, and glutes. Once again, your lower back extensors will shorten as you stand too. Contrary to popular belief, your hamstrings don't get that much work during the squat, acting more like stabilizers. Your lats and mid-back muscles also work with your abs to stabilize the load, and they get a workout, but they are not prime movers in the squat. So which lift should you focus on? In the long term, for strength and physique balance, you'll want to master and dominate both of these moves. But how you prioritize them in your program will change based on your goals and other factors. There are three main groups of people who should focus on the deadlift. The most obvious group of people who should focus on the deadlift are those who want glute and back gains most from their training. If you're trying to build your posterior chain, the deadlift is more directly subjecting those muscles to load. Squats can help with back and glute gains, sure, but it's the deadlift that really prioritizes back and glute muscle. If you're chasing athleticism too, then veer towards the deadlift. We're more actively training the hip extension mechanic that drives all our athletic movements, like running and jumping. The third group of people who should focus on the deadlift are those aiming for daily real-life carryover. Especially if you spend your days, say, lifting boxes, you'll find more carryover in the deadlift than the squat. For some goals though, the squat will be the better lift. If you're ultra tight on time and you can't train both lifts, but you really want to get better at both the squat and deadlift, think about doing the squat. The squat will deliver better strength carryover to the deadlift for one simple reason. When done properly, the squat trains the muscles that you use in the deadlift through a greater range of motion. Your glutes will get a major stretch at the bottom of each rep, which will at least ready your body a bit to deadlift heavy. The deadlift can help your squat, but it won't do so to the same extent. If you're chasing quad development above all, you'll also want to squat. The squat takes your legs through knee flexion and extension in much greater range than the deadlift, which means you'll get a major pump from properly done squats. The last situation in which you'll want to squat is if you're prepping for Olympic lifts like the power clean and the snatch. You'll need both squat and deadlift strength to excel at these moves, but understanding and controlling your body in deep knee flexion will be a major key to saving your heaviest Olympic lifts. Once again though, you really need to master both of these lifts over time. We've told you how to prioritize one lift over the other, but keep both these lifts in your training rotation. They are two training beasts that you absolutely can't ignore.